Hey everybody, Marriage Ranger here, speaking to you from the Lone Star State of Texas. Thank you so much for joining us today for this video. Today we're going to talk about how to face your fears, which come from your own worst enemy, of course, yourself. Don't go anywhere. In Bram Stoker's Dracula, the confrontation between Van Helsing's group and Count Dracula serves as a powerful illustration of facing one's deepest fears. The story recounts in multiple films that have been released over the years exactly what happened in this book. Characters are initially terrified when they witness Dracula's supernatural power, representing the unknown and the monstrous aspects of human fear. Despite their terror, though, they all band together in unison in order to confront him. They use their knowledge and their faith and their courage as weapons. Van Helsing in particular embodies the idea that facing evil directly is the only way to overcome it. You cannot be paralyzed by fear. You cannot allow the tenseness of horror to overwhelm you. You have to relax. You have to trust in yourself if you want to conquer your fears and have the victory. In the end, Van Helsing and his group are able to defeat Dracula only when they stop running from him and confront the darkness head on. This battle against Dracula serves as a metaphor for how we must confront the things that terrify us in our own lives. There is a psychological lesson for us in this. Much like Dracula's victims, people are often paralyzed by their own fears, and these fears just grow stronger and stronger within themselves when they're left unchallenged. However, once those fears are faced and exposed to the light, whether it's the melancholy's mistrust of everyone, the choleric's need for control, the supine's fear of rejection, the sanguine's fear of failure, or the phlegmatic's fear of confrontation, everyone has their own unique fears and challenges. But when they're faced, they lose their power over us and we are set free. Just as Dracula is vanquished in the book, so our inner demons are defeated when we stand up to them armed with self-awareness and courage. When we let the light in our hearts shine, the darkness flees and we have the victory. Many people don't realize this, but most of the damage done to us in our lives is what we do to ourselves. And we do this because we don't know how to relax and let go of our fears. We keep holding on to them. We keep holding on to all kinds of emotions that control us and destroy us from within. We have all these complexes and neuroses that we fight every single day. They hold us and never let us go until we actually are willing to take the battle to it. Somebody hurt me, so I can't trust anyone anymore. Somebody lied to me, so I can't believe what people say to me ever again. Somebody hated me, so I have to protect myself from being hated by others. I have to stay quiet. I have to keep a low profile. I have to stay off the grid, so to speak. Many more examples could be given of how we cower and hide ourselves emotionally because of our fears. Traumas have a way of stealing our innocence and affecting the way we interact with the world or fail to interact with it. Did you know that there are reasons why this is the case? Just from what we know about temperament and everyone's individual psyche, understanding these fears can help us see how we might be our own worst enemy. So let's talk about the melancholy. The melancholy temperament is typically the introverted one, deeply analytical, emotionally sensitive. Melancholies are terrified of being hurt or taken advantage of, and because of this, what they do is they build walls around themselves to keep others out. They're repulsed by the idea of letting anyone too close, and they're highly cautious, perceiving any approach as a potential threat to their independence and autonomy. When a melancholy feels like someone might be trying to control them or influence their decisions, they go into defense mode. They detach emotionally, they distance themselves, and sometimes they'll even sabotage relationships preemptively because they assume that betrayal or manipulation is in the future. They think it's inevitable. This fear of losing control over their own lives leaves them isolated, lonely, and stuck in a cycle of mistrust and constant self-sabotage. Basically, they're just too disgusted with people to build and maintain relationships with them. which is a horrible place to be. Next, the choleric. Cholerics are driven, assertive, and natural-born leaders, but their greatest fear, like the melancholy, is losing control. But it goes beyond that with the choleric. They're also afraid of losing control over others. The environment around them must be just as controlled as the inner relationship that they have with themselves. They're often terrified of situations where they're not in charge or can't dictate the outcome of whatever's going on. And this fear drives them to overexert themselves emotionally. It causes them to push themselves, even mentally and physically, in an attempt to maintain dominance and authority in all aspects of life. Cholerics often alienate themselves from others because of this need for control. They can become emotionally exhausted. They wear themselves out by trying to take on too much responsibility. When people around them don't submit to their leadership or don't follow their plan, cholerics often feel disgusted and frustrated, and that's how they disconnect from the world. Their fear of being seen as weak or losing their status pushes them into isolation, even though what they crave most of all is respect and recognition from the people around them. Now let's talk about the supine. Supines are deeply sensitive, and they seek approval and validation from others. Their greatest fear is rejection. The supine craves connection, but paradoxically, their fear of being abandoned or left out causes them to push others away from themselves. In a self-protected reflex, supines will often reject people first before they can be rejected. And this becomes a vicious cycle. Their attempts to avoid rejection lead to behaviors that actually cause the very thing that they fear. They may withdraw themselves emotionally and stop sharing their thoughts and feelings, or just sever the relationship preemptively. Over time, this leaves them very lonely and misunderstood and trapped by their own insecurities. Then there's the sanguine. Sanguines are known for being very outgoing, very optimistic, and very loving people. They also love being the center of attention, but they're terrified of being a failure. They are so concerned with how other people think about them that they will do almost anything to maintain a positive image. This fear can drive them to overcommit, saying yes over and over again in an attempt to please everybody around them, even if it means overextending themselves or sacrificing their own needs. Sanguines may also compromise their true feelings and desires, pretending to be something they're not, just to gain the approval of others. In their quest to be liked and seen as successful, they may neglect their own well-being. They may suppress their personal values and lose sight of their true identity, ultimately trapping themselves in a life that feels hollow and unfulfilling. What a terrible condition to find yourself in. And finally, there's the phlegmatic. Phlegmatics are known for being calm, easygoing, and conflict-averse, but their primary fear is confrontation and disruption of peace. They fear the emotional or relational turmoil that comes with strong conflict, and so they do everything in their power to avoid it. To the phlegmatic, maintaining harmony is absolutely essential, even if it means suppressing their own desires or needs. This leads them to become passive and often indecisive as well. They're terrified of making a decision that could upset someone or disrupt the status quo, so they often just stay silent. While their intention is to keep the peace, their avoidance of conflict often causes them to become resentful or disengaged, and over time they may retreat from challenges or opportunities that could allow them growth. They hold themselves back in an effort to maintain their internal sense of calm. Thus, they cut themselves off from the world. So as we have seen with all 5 of these temperaments, each one has its own unique sets of fears. And understanding these fears can help us identify how we might be sabotaging our own lives and causing ourselves to be in a place where we are disgusted with the world around us. Whether it's the melancholy's fear of being hurt, the choleric's fear of losing control, the supine's fear of rejection, the sanguine's fear of failure, or the phlegmatic's fear of confrontation, we all have areas in which we become our own worst enemy. The key to overcoming these fears is self-awareness and balance. And we get these traits from God. Notice, I didn't say we get them from church or we get them from religion. We get them from God. I'm talking about God himself, your creator in heaven, who's actually not far from you. He's not far from any of us. In him we live and move and have our being, as the scripture says. We have peace when we live in him and when he lives in us. Once we recognize the patterns that have been holding us back, we can begin to relax because we know what the problem is and we know how to challenge it using a divine force, God himself. We can face our fears and then we can move toward a more fulfilling life finally. I know this is a very difficult thing to do by ourselves. We often need help. We need to surrender our fears and the traumas of the past to someone. Thankfully, even if we don't have a family member nearby who can help us, or we don't have a minister nearby or someone we can confide in, we do have the God of the universe at all times. And it doesn't matter where we are. It doesn't matter what we're doing. He is there with us. He is with us everywhere we go. And we just got to let him carry the heavy load. As Jesus said, "Come unto me, all you who are weak, and I will give you rest." The journey isn't easy, and nobody wants to confront their terrors. But by confronting them with God's help, with God working in our hearts, we open the door to true growth and inner peace. If I can help you in any way, you can reach me directly by email. That's in the description. And if you need counseling, I would be glad to provide that for you. I'm taking new clients, so please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.